on the old Black Knight!
Good afternoon, Washington, D.C. This is Tony Browder, your host for another edition of the Browder File Show. This is show number 26. 26 episodes under my belt, and we're looking forward to having a great program today. I want to begin by thanking everyone for their pledges last weekend, helping me exceed my goal for 2 consecutive weeks. I wish to thank every single person who was able to call in and make a pledge online, and truly appreciate your support for me and your support for WPFW. For those of you who were a little late making your pledge and who would still like to make a pledge, you can still do so by making a pledge online at WPFWFM.org or calling 800-222-9739 or cash apping your pledge, your contribution at $WPFWFM or by texting WPFWFM to 801-801. You can still make a pledge to the station. You can also make a pledge to my program if you desire. And I'm Barbara. That goes out directly to you. There are a number of people who I saw over the weekend at the reparations program the Sister Nkechi sponsored, who have been sharing with me how much they enjoyed my show. And for those of you who I saw, who said that you like my show and have not made a pledge to WPFW, now is your time to do so. I also want to thank my guest from last week, Professor James Small, who just shared a lot of thought-provoking and interesting information about Malcolm X, his relationship with Malcolm, especially his relationship with Malcolm's sister, Ella Collins. James Small, as you know, has been organizing the annual tours to Malcolm's gravesite. And this particular trip on Monday was extremely special because it was in commemoration of Malcolm's 100th birthday. So they had quite an extensive caravan. There were a number of people who left from Baltimore, went up for that. Our own Nkechi Taifa was up and was reporting from the bus, and also shared some good information later on in the day. Hats off as well to WPFW for exceptional programming on Monday, throughout the day on Monday, commemorating the 100th birthday of Malcolm X. You know, and that's another reason why you should support this station, because of programming that you won't hear anywhere else in the city and anywhere else throughout the country. Joni had as her special guest, Dr. Greg Carr, who is always on top of his game. Greg was exceptionally brilliant as usual. Brother Kaba had on Sister Laini Mataka, who had an outstanding program, an outstanding poem which she shared. It was a poem that got her banned from the National Museum of African American History and Culture. They actually disinvited her from their celebration of the 100th birthday of Dr. Malcolm, because her poem was just too tough and too real. And some people can't handle that for whatever reason. Brother Kaba also had Baba Lumumba, who's an elder within our community and is always sharing some profoundly deep insights on Malcolm, on African and African-American history and culture. So it's always a treat to hear Baba Lumumba. And Monday, we also had the return of Ambrose Lane Jr. He is out of the hospital. He has recovered from his illness, and we wish him well. We wish him a continued recovery, and that he has the best state of health that any person could aspire to achieve. Last Friday, we did our Centers webinar, which from the feedback that I've gotten was one of my best webinars to date. That was really good. We had a lot of questions, so many questions that I didn't have an opportunity to answer them all. And so we're going to do something special on my show 2 weeks from today, on June the 4th. We're going to have some of the participants in that webinar to come on and ask some of the questions that they didn't have a chance to ask during the webinar so that we can also discuss this film a little bit more. And I'm also going to have a special guest. There was an element of the film that I felt could benefit from a psychologist's analysis of some of the characters in the film, and what would be the psychological impact of the loss of a mother figure. There were at least 3 figures in the film who, actually 4 figures in the film who suffered from the loss of a mother, or a mother who suffered the loss of the child. And I felt it would be nice to have a psychologist talk about the lingering effects of the sadness associated with the loss of a loved one, and how that relates to the film, and how it also relates to us on a personal level as well. And regarding Sinners, this film, this incredible film, which I think is Ryan Coogler's best film to date, will likely exceed $320 million in national and international sales this weekend. It will probably be one of the most important films of 2025. And I urge those of you all who haven't seen the film, or who have only seen it once, to go back and see it again, because it's a film that speaks to, the Black experience, the blues experience, the music experience, our cultural experiences on multiple levels. And it takes several viewings of this film, because it's so layered, it's so deep, to really get the numerous messages that are embedded in this film. And this Friday, May 23rd, just happens to be the 39th birthday of the cinematic genius, Ryan Coogler, who's done some incredible work just within the past 12 years. So he has a brilliant future ahead of him. Today, May the 21st, is also the birthday of our own Brother Ah, WPFW's own Brother Ah. He would have been 91 years old today. So I want to thank my sister Joni Eisenberg for reminding me that today is Brother Ah's birthday. And we wish him well. We wish him well. And we thank him for all of the understandings of music, the power of music, the transformative and spiritual nature of music that he shared with us on the airways of WPFW, and also just in personal conversations. So his soul is certainly being acknowledged today. And we also acknowledge the fact that it was 5 years ago, next Saturday, the 31st of May, that Brother Ah left us. And also this week, we're acknowledging that this is the 5th anniversary of the murder of George Floyd. So one of the important things about ancestors is that even when they leave us, they still leave an impact on our lives. And a critically important aspect of ancestral acknowledgement is to call their names, is to pour libation, is to invite them to come and to continue to be a part of their lives. And my guest today is someone who has made this ancestral acknowledgement a real phenomenon for hundreds of thousands of people. Our guest has a connection with Ryan Coogler and Chad Boseman in the films Black Panther and Sinners. Our guest is someone who has had a meaningful impact on people throughout the DMV. I would like to welcome to the airways of WPFW this afternoon, Dr. Gina Paige, co-founder and president of African Ancestry. Hey, Gina.
Hey, I feel like Beyonce's youngest daughter. I don't know if you've seen the clips where she's so excited and she's waving at the crowd, and that's how I feel on the inside. Like, I'm here talking to Tony.
Yeah, well, you're here, and this is your first time on the show. It's not the first time we've done interviews. Usually the roles are reversed, and you're interviewing me. So I'm happy to have you on my show. And this is the first of many appearances that I'm sure you will have. So let me just give folk a little background on Dr. Gina Paige. I shouldn't have to do this, but I know that there are folk who have been living under a rock somewhere and don't know of the phenomenal work that you've done. But African Ancestry was founded 22 years ago, and it was the first commercially genetic testing company in the United States, founded in 2003. It was founded several years before 23andMe, which has since gone out of business. And it was founded 7 years before Ancestry.com, which is a larger organization, but it's certainly not a better organization. And I say it's larger and not better because Ancestry.com contains only 464 African genetic data points compared to over 30,000 samples that you have. So you are head and shoulders. What you're able to provide people of African ancestry is an in-depth examination of the DNA that we carry in our bodies, and you're able to trace it back to 9 different regions in 40 African countries. So Gina, let's talk about African ancestry and talk about what prompted you to become engaged in this very important work.
Well, a few years ago, I would have answered differently, but today I know for certain that it was the ancestors prompting, because I don't think I would have necessarily chosen this venture without their push. But I was introduced to my co-founder, Dr. Rick Kittles, who is a geneticist, an African American geneticist. And he had this ability to take a person's DNA, a Black person specifically, and analyze it to tell them where their mother's people were before 1619, even going back 2,000 years, or their father's people. And he had the ability, but no way to make it available to the public. And so in our partnership, I commercialized his research so that anybody around the world who wants to know where their people were in Africa prior to the transatlantic slave trade could get the answer. And at the time, Tony, I thought it was, okay, this is something that never existed before. I'm coming from a corporate product management background, launching new products and line extensions. But this was brand new. Nobody was doing it. No one could do it or had done it for a group of people that I'm passionate about, which is Black people. So that was what I thought was happening. But I truly was answering a call from the ancestors to do this work.
So you did product management in your professional career when you got that tap on the shoulder from your ancestors. So you connected with Rick. Rick had this idea. You found a way to commercialize that idea. And what has been the benefits of your work for the past 22 years?
Ooh, for me or for others?
Both for you. And then I also want to ask you, as you answer the second part of that question, what has been the most impactful reveal that you've done that you can share with our audience?
Yeah. Well, the benefits for me include giving me a perspective on who I am because of who I come from. So I already knew a lot of genealogy. I knew that I come from, at least on the Paige side, people who are entrepreneurs and who, if they built houses, they also built the bricks to make the houses.
Mm.
And my entrepreneurial lineage goes back really far. But what I didn't know is that on that line, I share ancestry with the Hausa people of Nigeria today, and the women are the business people of that community. I didn't know that, and so learning that has really given me a new perspective on what and why I do what I do.
So you could say then that you were born to do this work. It's in your blood, literally.
Yeah, literally, yes. And so that's a very humbling, empowering revelation. But the benefits and these benefits also apply to me as to others, is, Tony, and you were one of the people who co-signed this for me when we probably even before we met. But if you don't know where you're from, it's impossible to know who you are. I like to say that we're the original victims of identity theft. And so by finding out where your people were in present day Africa, you now can put everything you do into a new perspective. Your knowledge of history changes because you start to learn about those countries, those people. Your perspective on spirituality may change because you learn how your people, what they believed and what they worshiped and what they revered. You understand, why your family has certain traditions, be they food, be they language, whatever it is. So it gives us a sense of place and a sense of belonging. And what I see all the time is a sense of pride, uh, that in knowing that answer. It also brings families together because the result that we give a person isn't just for them. It's for everyone who came before them and everyone in the family who will come after them. And that allows families to start interacting and engaging in different ways. We've seen families travel to places they never thought about traveling, things like that. Um, and so I think the benefits, we could do a whole show on the benefits. But the one benefit that I think is the most meaningful, if I can even say that, is the impact that it has on kids.
Ah, and why is that? What is that impact? What do you see?
Well, there's so many kids who across the country who go to school with
Mm,
other kids who
sure.
know where they're from.
Mm-hmm.
They either know that they are from El Salvador or France or Italy or Russia, wherever it is. These kids know they can use their last names.
Mm-hmm.
We can't do that. Or they have the family pedigree that we
Mm-hmm.
don't have knowledge of. All of these things. And so it's all, they take it for granted. So then the teachers, they give these projects or they have these international day or these ancestry days at school. And the Black kids are like, Mommy, what am I supposed to do? I hear this time and time and time again. But the kids who can say, well, my people uh, are from South Carolina, but before that, we come from Sierra Leone and we're known for growing rice. And they can bring a jollof rice dish or, whatever it is to participate, to contribute. They have a whole different outlook on what's possible. And my favorite story, and I know my team is going to be like, Gina, get a new favorite story, but you asked, and it's my favorite, is Julian. When Julian was like 9 years old, I met his mother and she was like, Gina, I, I have to get this test. My son Julian loves genealogy and he wants to know where we're from. He goes to a school that has a global day and they put a world map up on the wall and they tell the kids, put a pin in your country.
Mm-hmm.
And when he was even younger than 9, he asked his mother, where am I supposed to put my pin? And that, I don't have any kids, but that just, is heart-wrenching to me. Like, why should he be left out of that
Sure,
celebration?
absolutely.
But kudos to Julian for understanding that there was a void.
Mm-hmm.
So she got him the test and I was all hyped up. So I went overboard and, sending video messages and all this stuff. But we went to Dallas where they lived at the time and did a reveal at the, I wish I could think of the name. There's a wonderful Black bookstore and art shop in Dallas. The sister, I can't think of her name now. But anyway, we had an event there and he came
Mm,
and we revealed his ancestry to him and he was just beaming. He's only 9 at the time,
sure.
so there's only so much he can absorb, I thought. So when I asked him, well, Julian, how do you feel? He said, now I can put 2 pins in the map because we traced him to Cameroon, present day Cameroon, the Tikar people, and Equatorial Guinea, Bioko Island, the Bubi people. So he was able to connect to 2 different ethnic groups. And so Julian had a business, still does at the time, kid business called the Step Stool Chef. And even today at 16, he now has a Cameroonian jollof rice recipe that he teaches to kids because he teaches kids how to cook, how to prepare food. He rocks his his Cameroon and his Bioko Island t-shirts. Like it made a difference.
Sure.
And so to me, that is just, one of the many positive outcomes of this work.
Let me ask you a question that I'm sure you hear often, and that I know frustrates you to no end. We're talking to Dr. Gina Paige. She is the co-founder and president of African Ancestry. So this has been your life for the past 22 years. You have lived and breathed African ancestry. You've traveled the country, you've traveled the world, you've been doing this. What is your response to those people, those Black people who ask you, what's the important, why do I need to know my DNA? How do you deal with those people who don't get it?
Well, it depends. So one of my strategies I learned from you,
Okay.
I don't always try to explain it to everybody.
Sure.
Because not everybody deserves my energy and an explanation. It depends on how they ask. If they ask in a way that's just like, that's some BS, what difference does it make? Then I just let them have that because there are so many other people who really don't understand. And so the way I deal with it now is I talk about how our DNA has power. One of the parts of the DNA that we look at to determine your mother's line is called mitochondrial DNA. We each inherit it from our mothers and it never changes. So you have the same mitochondrial DNA as your mother and her siblings, your grandmother, her mother, all the way back to the woman who was captured and brought here. You have that exact same mitochondrial DNA in your body, every cell of your body. And I'm not a scientist, but what I've learned is the mitochondria is what provides the power and the energy for the cell.
Absolutely.
So when you are disconnected from that, there's a void that we've talked about. But when you plug in, you get a new sense of energy. You have plugged into the power source. It's not just in your DNA, but now it's in your actions. It's in your psychology. It's in your understanding. It is all through you intellectually and physically and psychologically.
And spiritually.
And spiritually, yes.
Yes, indeed.
So why wouldn't you want that power?
I think the only people who don't get it are those who have been disengaged from their power source for so long that their batteries have died. They have nothing in them to recharge. And I've seen you wear a T-shirt that has been one of my favorite catchphrases. The Harriet Tubman T-shirt.
Oh, no. We out.
Yeah, we out. And that prompted me to run across someone else who had I don't know if I got it from you or someone else who said never argue with someone that Harriet Tubman would have left behind. Right. So there are some folk who just don't get it, and we don't have time, particularly at this point in American history and world history. We don't have time to explain to people why Black lives and African ancestry matters. If you don't get it, you don't get it, and you're entitled to your right to be dumb. We don't have time to waste, and let's move on. But as I think about the importance of your work and how, as you stated previously, you traced your heritage back to a group of women from Africa who were business people, right? It's in your DNA. Even your name speaks to what you're supposed to be doing. You're Gina, right? It's you were born to do this. And as Dr. Welsing often said, we all come into this world with a cosmic assignment. And when we acknowledge that and align ourselves to that cosmic assignment, then the ancestors and the forces within the universe flow through us and protect us to ensure that we can do the things that we were born here to do. And you have certainly transformed the lives of well over 100,000 people, according to your literature. And
Yeah, it's more, that's old literature, Tony. Now it's over 1 million.
over 1 million. All right, then I'll add another zero. I'll add another zero. Yeah. So I mean, that's profound, Gina. In 22 years, you've impacted the lives of over 1 million people, and that's 1 million people who've taken your test. And each of those people are part of a family, so that number may be quadrupled. So that's profoundly significant. I do recall on March the 4th, 2008, when I got my results for my matrilineal test that I did with African Ancestry. And it said that my mother's family lineage was from Cameroon, the Bamileke, the Takar, and the Hausa people. And I recall personally how I felt getting that information. And I decided to go and take the patrilineal test to determine what my Y chromosome, because at that time in 2006, I didn't know my biological father. And one of the most rewarding experiences or feelings that I've ever had in my life was getting the results, which I got from you all on the 24th of April, 2006, telling me that my Y chromosome had been traced back to the Yoruba in Nigeria. And what that meant for me was, even though I didn't know my biological father at that time, I knew what aspects of him I was carrying in my DNA. And that helped me to feel wholer than I had felt in my life up to that point. So I understand on a personal level how profoundly significant your work is. And I was so pleased. Well, let me ask you to do this before I put this other question to you. I heard you do an interview a couple of weeks ago where you gave an analogy between African ancestry and the DNA test, and what is it? The
red velvet cake.
Red velvet cake. So please share that. I thought that was a beautiful analysis, and it was certainly Gina Paige at the top of her game. So please share that analogy with my listeners.
Okay. Yeah. So, and I have to shout out Ty Brooks because she came up with the cake analogy. I made it red velvet.
All right, so, go, Ty.
We're often asked, Tony, how we are different from the other companies. The other companies are out there, they're much less expensive. And so people know them and people think that they're the gold standard for some reason. The other companies take, your DNA, compare it to now 4,000 Africans, and then say you're some percentage African, you're some percentage, most likely European. And then within Africa, they say, 40% comes from Nigeria and 20% comes from Cameroon / Congo / Southeastern Bantu or something they make up, Southwestern Bantu. But it doesn't tell you anything. It just tells you that you're West African. And certainly if you know anything about history, you know that your people came from West Africa. You don't need DNA for that. What we do is, so they take the whole cake and then they give you the slices of the cake. Some portion comes from here or there. We look at the ingredients. So a red velvet cake is made up of cocoa and flour and sugar and red dye and milk and eggs and cream cheese and for the frosting, right? All of those things. What we can tell you is where the cocoa comes from. And which part of your family line the cocoa comes from, or where do the eggs come from? Is it your eggs come from your father's people. In my case, those would be Hausa. Or the sugar comes from your maternal grandfather's father's people. In my case, that would be Portugal. So we don't look at the whole cake. We take parts of your cake, your ingredients, and then tell you where specifically those those ingredients are found.
Yeah, but I mean, if you can get to that, if you love food, if you love eating, if you understand the significance of recipes, once you have a good recipe, you can repeat that, and that's essentially what we do with our genes. We take the essence of who we are, and we replicate that every time a new member comes along the family, and it stretches back. That genetic line stretches back hundreds and even thousands of years. This is the Browder File Show. I'm your host, Tony Browder. Our guest today is Dr. Gina Paige, co-founder and president of African Ancestry. And we're talking about you. We're talking about all of the people that you carry in your body. Now, I really can appreciate the idea. And I was going to say concept, but it's really actually, it's not conceptual. It's a reality that we carry in our bodies the genetic makeup of everybody along our family line going back thousands and thousands of years. Is that not correct?
Almost everybody.
Okay.
So there's some parts of people over generations that kind of break off,
Sure.
fade away, but mostly everybody, yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, and that's why certain traits, certain maybe hair color or
Height or
height,
weight.
weight, certain dispositions, certain talents and abilities can be passed down. You mentioned that you come from a family of business people. So that trait, that skill of counting and interacting with people, social dynamics is something that is literally bred into you. And once you know that you carry these ingredients in you, then you can make of your cake whatever you desire, right?
Exactly. And you know what? You deserve to know what you're made of.
Absolutely.
The whole reason that African ancestry exists is because there are no records to tell us where we come from. They intentionally, by they, I mean those engaged in the transatlantic slave trade, they intentionally disconnected us because they understood and continue to understand our power. So they cut it off.
Mm-hmm.
They decided you can't use your names, you can't speak your language, you can't honor your ancestors. We're going to sell your kids, we're going to sell your husband, we're going to sell your mother, all of those things to keep us disconnected. And we deserve to know our recipe.
Right on.
We don't take it lightly when we can't have other stuff, we fight for it. And now one thing they couldn't take was our DNA. And now, through the brilliance of a Black geneticist and his brilliant business partner, you, you can use your DNA to get that answer about what they stole. And you deserve that, and you should want to know that. I shouldn't even have to convince you that you should want to know your recipe and who you are.
So another unique factor of African ancestry, something that you have the business cultural integrity to do that other companies don't do. You don't sell your DNA. You don't sell your results. You destroy it. Correct. Well, what motivated you to do that? Because you certainly could be making more money if you sold the DNA like 23andMe used to do, like Ancestry.com does. You could certainly do that. What prompted you to have some integrity in your business practices?
Yeah. So I have to say, in a nutshell, because we're Black. And by that, I mean, my business partner, Dr. Kittles, is a genetics researcher. So he understood the difficulty in getting Black people even to participate in genetics research. There's always a concern, what's going to happen, and a very valid
Absolutely.
concern. But he was like, Gina, we cannot keep the DNA. We cannot believe that we're going to tell Black people in 2003, when DNA was not a household word, give us your DNA and we'll tell you where you're from in Africa, and don't worry about what we're going to do with it. No. So from day one, we made that decision with respect and integrity to not keep the DNA. So once we determine the result, it's destroyed, which means we can't sell it. We can't share it. And Tony, I have to tell you that was a wise business decision from a socially responsible business perspective. We wouldn't be in business probably today if we kept the DNA, because I just don't think we would have gotten the buy-in that the other companies have gotten from our.
Sure.
But from a profit and loss perspective, all of your value genetically is in your DNA. And so we have, every time we in our lab incinerates the waste, we're incinerating value. We're incinerating potential wealth, and we're incinerating the ability to research that DNA for the benefit of Black people.
Let me ask you along that line then. What benefits do the other companies get? So how are they able to benefit from selling, my DNA? If I went to 23andMe or ancestry.com, who would they sell it to? And what would be done with that DNA?
Well, my understanding, and I've not spoken to the leaders of these corporations, but my understanding is that it is made available for research, for drug development, so pharmaceutical companies. We are in an age of precision medicine.
Sure.
And precision medicine is personalized medicine. When you get drugs based on your own genetic makeup to address whatever specific issue you have. That's here. But if your DNA is not included in the research, then the chances of you getting drugs that work for you are very slim. And so that's what can happen with the DNA. It can help pharmaceutical research. That's one thing. It can also, I'm sure that's what they were doing it.
Sure, but we also know that there's other research that goes on where families are not informed. Case in point, Henrietta Lacks,
yes,
whose cells were used, and companies and educational institutions and hospitals made millions and millions of dollars off of this woman's cellular material, and her family never received a dime, which is why they're being sued right now.
Exactly. And I think they've won. But here's the thing, Tony, about that. Henrietta Lacks could not advocate for herself.
True.
Henrietta Lacks did not have anyone to advocate for her. And it was white scientists that were taking advantage of Henrietta Lacks. Today, there are Black women who are suffering from cancers, that are suffering from the worst forms of cancer. Not just, I'm saying Black women because she was a Black woman.
Sure.
And without the research, our sisters are at a disadvantage. So I think that while we learn the history, we understand the history, and then we move differently going forward. The move forward doesn't mean you don't participate in the research. The move forward means you understand who are the researchers. There are a plethora of Black researchers. You understand what are the terms, what does the fine print say? And you advocate for yourself or your loved ones. We're going to we are being left behind if we don't participate. So that's the rub, I understand why we don't, but I really wish we would. And we could help support so many Black scientists and their research if we did. So think about it, y'all. Just think about it.
Well, that's one of the beautiful things that you're doing with your company, Gina. Not only are you giving people the opportunity to understand to know where they came from, but you're giving people an opportunity to understand how science works and how we can be included in scientific research that will benefit, our daughters, our sons, our nephews, and future family members. So we can't continue to sit on the sidelines while everybody else is passing us by. We've got to get involved in this game. We've got to be players. We've got to be major players, and not just people who stand on the sidelines and watching everybody benefit, watching everybody win, while we're still scratching our heads wondering why we can't be a part of this movement. Exactly. So look, I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about your connection, African Ancestry's connection with Chad Boseman and Ryan Coogler and Black Panther and Sinners. Okay. So let me set it up. for you. All right. So it was in 2018 when the film Black Panther was out, and Chad Boseman is doing the publicity runs. He was doing an interview with the Breakfast Club, if I'm not mistaken.
It
And
was the week before this film opened.
oh, really? Okay, so that was early February then, 2018. So I remember seeing the clip. It was all over YouTube and social media. But Charlemagne the God was talking about DNA and said that he had gone through 23andMe. And Chad put him in check. 23andMe. Oh, well, you didn't go to the right company.
You took the wrong test.
You took the wrong test.
You took the wrong test.
And he gave a shout out to African Ancestry, which changed the trajectory of your business in 2018. You pick it up from there and let our audience know what Brother Chad, being the conscious brother that he was / is, did for you in your business.
Yeah, he took the test in 2009, Tony. This was 2018. And I had met him once in passing through some mutual friends, but he didn't know me. I didn't know him. And over those years, we had reached out and asked him through his people if he would participate in an interview or, something. And he always his response would be, I will, but I'd rather do it when I can make the biggest impact. So we were like, okay, that's cool. So when he did that on the Breakfast Club and he gave us that shout out, we didn't know it had happened. We had gotten all these calls that morning, and it was a lot of men calling to order the test. And they were like, Gina, what did you do? And I was like, I don't know. So I answered a call. The guy told us, go watch it on YouTube. He had used his African ancestry results in his preparation for Black Panther. And other roles too, leading up to Black Panther. And he made that decision to help a Black-owned business without getting anything in exchange, without being asked to do it. And so for me, he's our angel investor because our business tripled. Our business tripled in 2018. And it was thanks to him and Charlemagne, because Charlemagne and the Breakfast Club allowed us to use the clip. They could have shut us down and not let us use the clip. He told everybody, apparently, including Ryan Coogler, apparently, that he should take the test. And so, as I understand it, Ryan took the test, but they also tested his wife's paternal line.
Yes.
And one of the things that is the most difficult for Black people who take our test to understand is how their results might not come back African. When we trace the maternal line, 9 out of 10 people get an African result, but one's going to get a European or Middle Eastern or Asian result, right? When we trace the paternal line, 6 or 7 are going to get an African result, and 3 or 4 are going to get a European result. And that just blows some people's minds. I don't know, like all understanding of history goes out the window when that happens. Well, when Ryan's father-in-law's line was tested, it went back to China.
Exactly.
And we get that every now and then, and people are just like, you're a fraud. This doesn't make any sense. You must have mixed up my samples. They never accept it. But as he showed us in the movie Sinners, there was a relationship between the Chinese community and the African American community in many places.
Exactly. Yeah, I had caught an interview with Ryan about five weeks ago now, when he was talking about preparation for Sinners, writing Sinners. And he mentioned that his Zinzi's father is from Chicago, her mother is Filipino, and that his father took the test and his Y chromosome came back I think it was 1/8 Han Chinese. And his grandfather then was born in Mississippi and married his sister. So it spoke to this relationship between Chinese and African Americans. And once I heard that interview, I started thinking about a couple of friends of mine. I have a good friend, DM Jones. He's gonna be on the show sometime next month. His grandfather, he was born in Seattle, Washington, on the West Coast, but his grandfather is Chinese, right? And have another friend who is from Guyana, and he's part Chinese. So these relationships happen, right? These relationships happen, and you are who you are, right? And what's so critically important is for people to know who they are and accept who they are, and have the willingness to do a deeper dive and understand all of the components that comprise you, because we all are made of multiple cells. We all are made of multiple genetic ancestry. It's not all African, but in a larger sense, and tell me how you respond to this. In a larger sense, we do know that the mitochondrial DNA of Homo sapiens sapiens is African. Everybody on this planet is of African ancestry, so we're all African. Some just happen to be more African than others. But you have recently, Gina, in addition to doing the genetic testing, you have recently started taking people to the countries in Africa where their DNA links them. So what's that experience been like?
Man, let me tell you, there's nothing like watching someone experience Africa for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And because the people that travel with us for the most part are going home,
Yes.
there's an even deeper spiritual experience that happens. We call them African Ancestry family reunions,
Mm-hmm.
because we are taking the family home on a culturally immersive birthright journey, because this is our birthright. We
Absolutely.
deserve to know where we're from, and we deserve to know what that place looks like, and we deserve to be able to live there if we want. And so we have taken people to Sierra Leone, to Cameroon, to Ghana, and to Nigeria. And it has just been, there are always tears, there is always overwhelm, there's always laughter, there's always good food, there's always
Mm-hmm.
great shopping, you know. And people get renamed. They get names from the ethnic groups that they share ancestry with. It really is a transformative
Mm-hmm.
experience that we don't take lightly.
Sure.
You see a lot of travel happen online. It's not about going to the tallest mountain or the prettiest beach. We do go to the beach, we do see the landscape, but it's really about digging in and connecting on a physical and spiritual level with the people, because
Mm-hmm.
just like we were disconnected from them, they were disconnected from us. And one of our responsibilities as AfricanAncestry.com is to reconnect, to help dispel stereotypes, and to build that bridge uh, between two sets of misunderstanding often,
Mm-hmm.
here in the sixth region and there on the continent of Africa. The first several trips we took to Cameroon, to Sierra Leone, the travelers received citizenship. So they now are citizens with passports from Sierra Leone. It has just been, and we've gone with elders, even children have come, Tony, and you know how this is because many of us have traveled with you to Kemet. But just to see the impact across generations and to see the impact on the ground, because one of the misconceptions is that they don't want us there, when everywhere we go, all we hear is "you are welcome, welcome home, you are welcome." And so that has been one of the highlights of my personal African ancestry experience, is helping people to go home. And if I could say just one more thing,
Sure.
going to Africa changes people.
Absolutely.
So we had one couple, Kevin and Susan. Kevin came with us to Sierra Leone, and to get his citizenship. Susan was his girlfriend at the time. She didn't care nothing about where she was from in Africa. But over the 2-week trip, she started feeling FOMO, right? She was
Mm-hmm.
like, I want to know where I'm from. They eventually got engaged right after that trip and married. We traced her ancestry to the Igbo people in Nigeria. And in January, they were back with us in Nigeria, now exploring her ancestry with another couple whose husband had found Fulani roots, and the wife was like, nah, I'm okay. And then by the end of that trip, she had FOMO and wanted to. So that's how I know we're doing the right thing. We're having a
Good, good,
good
good.
time when
I
the significant other buys in.
Sure, sure. Well, we're talking to Dr. Gina Paige, president and co-founder of African Ancestry. So, with the phenomenal work that you've been doing over the past 22 years, with over 1 million people having discovered their roots, their literal roots in the motherland, what's next for you? What do you want to do? If I hit the lotto tomorrow and could deposit $2 million in your bank account, what would African Ancestry do next?
Well, Tony, we want to travel to more countries. So we've only gone to 4, and we found ancestry from 27 different countries, right? But
Mhm.
mostly West and Central Africa. So that would probably be on the list. But I do have a vision that I'll share here publicly. I would take some of that $2 million. I want every incoming HBCU freshman to know where they're from.
Hmm.
I want them to come to campus, go through a workshop, take our test, be revealed so they can see their connections, go through their year with some curriculum, workshop
Mm-hmm.
type curriculum. The next year they're sophomores. So then they can welcome the new freshmen in.
Hmm.
Now you have more connections, right? Then those sophomores become juniors and they do a spring break project in an African country. And then when they're seniors and graduating, they've had 4 years of experience with Africa.
Oh,
They can have,
yes.
and then now they have created, the school has created not just an incredible scholar, but a global citizen. And I think that's what we,
Hmm.
so that's what I would do with
So,
them.
so what would it take to make that happen? What kind of contacts would you need in order to get some HBCUs or get some presidents of some HBCUs to listen to your pitch and give your idea the consideration that it deserves?
I just need funding. The schools can't fund it.
Hmm.
I have some of the connections. I just need the funding. So I need some funders, some philanthropists, some business owners who want to help develop a global workforce, who
I
wants to help develop global citizens that look like you and we can make it happen.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I'm putting it out there that there will be someone who sees this interview, who hears this, and someone pulls their coat. And I would love you to call me one day, very excited, and say, Tony, I got a call from X, Y, and Z, and we're going to start working with one HBCU. And once you work with one HBCU, it opens the door for another one and then another one. So I can see that happening, Gina. That is something that we surely need at this particular point in time of the attempted erasure of Black history, Black culture, Black consciousness. So this may be the year for African ancestry to soar into the stratosphere.
I love it. I have the test school. I have the school. I have the president. I just need the money to pull the trigger. So I'm with you. I agree. We're going to manifest that.
Okay. All right. Well, good. We'll make that happen. Well, look, Gina, it's been wonderful. I've got to wrap up because it's almost time for me to go, but this has been great. And definitely we'll have you back so that we can continue this discussion. I know there's so many things that we left on the table, didn't have an opportunity to talk about, but I'll definitely have you back. You're local. You live right down the street from me, and even though you're traveling more than I do, but you're doing good work. And at this particular point in time, we need to reconnect with Africa like never before, because our future here in America is dependent on the relationships that we cultivate with our sisters and brothers on the continent of Africa. Once we become stronger, they become stronger. And through our unified strength, we can do some phenomenal things. And it's time for us to rise. It's time for us to wake up. So any parting words, you want to please share some details about African Ancestry and how people can find you. They want to do your tests.
So you can find us online at africanancestry.com. We're on all the socials as at African Ancestry. On YouTube, we're at African Ancestry DNA. You only need one test. One test can give you information for everybody in the family who comes from your maternal grandmother and her mother. So it's a family project. One test gives you information for the family. Thank you, Tony. Thank you for having me. And congratulations on from the Browder file. It's been a joy to watch it grow.
Well, thank you so much. But let me say one thing too regarding people contacting you for the DNA test. So only a male member can trace their Y chromosomes to get information about the paternal side of the family, right? Anybody can do the maternal, but only males can do the Y chromosome. I wanted to put that distinction out there because I know women who want to know something about their father, but the father is deceased. But if the father has a brother, or if the father or the father's brother has a son, then that paternal DNA can be traced through that aspect of the family, correct?
You're hired.
All right. And you know what? I'm going to give you my services free for a year. All right.
Thank you.
Well, Gina, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. And give my best to your dad and your mom and the rest of your family. Enjoy the rest of your vacation. And I look forward to seeing you back in DC some point in the very near future. Okay.
Yes. Thank you, Tony. Have a good evening.
Okay. You're welcome, Gina. So Gina Paige, and the website. What's the website? AfricanAncestry.com. AfricanAncestry.com. So everyone, please check out African Ancestry. It's a company that lives for you, that works for you, and the benefits that you receive from engaging with this company are benefits that can be shared with everybody in your family. And again, as we in every Browder File show, we talk about love, and what better way to show your love for your family, show your love for yourself, show your love for your ancestors. Whether you know them or not, you carry them with you. You carry them in your DNA. And they are always waiting to be acknowledged so that they can come forward and inspire you in the literal sense of the word, inspirit you, and give you the thoughts and ideas and the power that will help you defeat this beast that is doing everything within their power to hold us back. We need to be united. We need to learn to love ourselves. And as Maurice White says every evening at the end of the show, if there ain't no beauty, you got to make some beauty. So thank you, Khalil, for engineering another wonderful show. This is Tony Browder with the Browder File. Love you all to life. And I will see you all next week. Take care. Peace.